Yes, there's going to be more marches for Australia. They're happening in most capital cities on October the 19th. And I, for one, am going to be countering one. And I hope you are too. We'll get to that later on. I'm going to cover a little bit of the fallout from the first ones and also look at what's coming up. In the wake of the August 31st March for Australia, and in particular the brutal attack on Camp Sovereignty by members of the National Socialist Network, there were a series of Age articles and other bits of media produced doxing a variety of members of the NSN. People such as this dentist, Ian Lomax, who's now not a dentist anymore. Not nearly enough doxing in my view, but that story definitely ain't over yet, friends. Stay tuned. We saw the first mainstream media verification of the news that I was the first to break, which is the fact that there was an accused pedophile and a member of the NSN arrested with alleged possession of child sexual abuse material on their phone. We also saw this excellent article by the Age's Sharon Grotch and Rachel Dexter, more or less doing the work that I did with my March for Australia neo-Nazi capture video, but doing it in print publication and very rigorous work, mind you. It's definitely worthwhile reading. One of the things I was very grateful to see them do was to go in depth, finally, on Ozpil, aka Cleesum, aka Hugo Lennon, one of the organisers and promoters of the Marches for Australia. The Age finally do a job in establishment media print publication of elucidating the significant connections between Hugo Lennon and the National Socialist Network, including Hugo briefly having the intention of re-establishing an anti-doxing page called the Black Rose Society. Anyway, it's my fervent hope that this will stem the tsunami-level tide of defamation threats that Hugo Lennon spends every single day of his life issuing out to anyone who mentions that Hugo has deep ties to neo-Nazis. Although, again, if you'll allow me to pat myself on the back, I'm going to say this once more. You heard it here first. Admittedly, in a flippant and cheeky way, but I did say in September 2024 that Hugo was partly behind the Black Rose Society page. I said it as an aside in this flippant, silly, cheeky little video that I did. You may not have seen this video because within 2 hours of me publishing it, Hugo Lennon went all legal on me and he issued a defamation complaint regarding my video. You can still go and see it, it's just that it's blocked from Australian audiences on YouTube unless you load up a VPN. It really mattered to me at the time though, to be honest, because I was entertained by that. And I was entertained as well and satisfied by the fact that within 24 hours of me publishing the video, Hugo Lennon rang like the fucking clappers from the idea of continuing with the Black Rose Society project. Guys, look, I'm not insecure and in need of validation over here. It's not why I keep saying you heard it here first, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. I'm trying to tell you that as an activist journalist, obviously a partisan anti-fascist commentator, sometimes it'll seem like I'm out on a limb. Like I haven't posted receipts, for example. If you're someone who needs to wait until Nick McKenzie or Rachel Dexter from The Age ratifies what I'm telling you, I totally understand that. But I also want to say that my track record speaks for itself. You'll often hear it first, because I know what I'm fucking talking about. Now we can proceed beyond the sucking myself off portion of this video. You know what? I've seen enough recorded conversations with March attendees to know perfectly well that some of them are showing up with working class concerns. You know, like, look, if someone genuinely believes, and a lot of these organisers and these influencers are telling them this ad nauseum, propagandising to them, if someone genuinely believes that there's 500,000 immigrants flooding Australia every year, made up, and that those 500,000 immigrants are the ones making it impossible for them to own or even rent a property, also made up, then I do think we could theoretically have a good conversation from that starting point. You know what? I'd talk to them. I'd say they got the numbers wrong. I'd say they misunderstood the reasons behind the housing crisis. I'd say that look at negative gearing. Look at the fact that these people in power, bipartisan leaders, have ditched social housing and kept negative gearing. They've sold us up the river on this issue. We might even be able to agree on that if we could have the chat. But when I have the chat about the neo-Nazi element who captured the August 31st events, you know, whether by stacking it from the top down or by simply infiltrating, taking over the speeches, all the other elements of the rally, like I documented in my previous video, I'm still told by everyone that I call everyone a neo-Nazi. So I go away feeling my words have fallen on deaf ears as regards the people that I want to hear it the most. But they feel the same because they feel that when I talk about the Nazi element, for example, that I'm ignoring their intentions. That a lot of them are going along for, again, curbing the made-up 500,000 immigrants who are, you know, again, made up, taking their houses from them because they don't actually understand their real prescription because everyone in their media sphere bullshits to them every day. You know, I can't have that chat. They don't feel I'm hearing their chat. We have a breakdown in communication, which is very typical of the left-right culture wars. And this breakdown benefits the most dishonest, shitty types on the fringes, like these neo-Nazi parasites, like the organisers who are creating a space for them. They're having a fucking field day dancing around the margins of our inability to have any kind of discussion with each other. I'm not saying that the people at this rally would ever be my mates or my comrades. I don't fucking think so. I think we're a bit too diametrically opposed. But as regards the people at their quote-unquote curbing mass immigration rally who actually want all non-white citizens of this country to be deported or executed, I can't talk to them about that. That's the problem. But I still maintain that a lot of them are dupes, saps, marks, targets of a long con started by a well-oiled and very well-funded right-wing media apparatus and only recently crept into and taken over by the worst of the right, the neo-Nazis. I'll continue to try to find ways to have discussions with that segment of these attendees, if I can, where I can, because I still believe that some of them can be wisened up somewhat. Call me fucking naive. But certainly I draw a distinction between those saps and the organisers and the fascists. What do I think about the organisers and the fascists? Well, do you know what I mean when I say that a face is made to be seen in Kmart? That's Beck Freedom. Like, this is a face that is meant to be spotted in the homeware aisle of the 24-hour Burwood Kmart. You know, you've gone there for some item. You need your Anko fix, you know, that your home's crying out for some fresh Anko. It's 11 p.m. at night and she's there, maybe in like a onesie or an hoodie. She's getting stuff, you know what I mean? She doesn't look happy. She's fucking there. And that's where she should be. But such is the nature of fame in the age of TikTok and Hell World as well, you know, let's not forget that instead of just being in Burwood Kmart, she's now the lead organiser of a nationalist movement. How far we've fallen. Beck wanted to say how wrong everyone in the media and also people in the freedom movement and even people such as myself were about illuminating the degree to which she was in bed with neo-Nazis. So, in order to do that, she wrote for Australia's premier neo-Nazi website, Notice Her. She said she was an easy target and that everyone else dug up anything negative she'd previously said and twisted it to suit a narrative. Then she also said that she had chats with the NSN beforehand to confirm their intentions and their agreement on messaging. What she doesn't mention in here is that she also, during that conversation, would have agreed to appoint NSN members to all of the marshal positions for the Sydney rally because the NSN were the people who were marshalling the rally and they would have agreed to the strategy of committing to an open mic in order to allow for NSN to speak without getting the politicians who agreed to speak before them in trouble. Or, as her partner Jessie Stewart, the other organiser of these events, put it, the reason I'm an open mic free speech advocate is that people travel to these events to have their voices heard and they deserve a say. You have a really woozy experience in responding to these compulsive liars when you notice them at once telling you that you've misrepresented them whilst then also agreeing with you and confirming everything you've said about them. They want everyone to know that they're not in bed with the NSN whilst saying exactly the same thing as the NSN all the time and working and confirming that they're working with the NSN. I'll play you one brief clip that did the rounds after the first march that tells the whole story in just a few seconds.
Was it the plan for neo-Nazis to lead the march?
No, definitely not.
Wasn't?
Nope.
She says that with the leader of the New South Wales NSN riding shot behind her at the lead of the march after she's just had a big chat with all of the NSN marshals about them leading the march. I think the thing is that people like this have a completely different epistemological relationship to truth building. It's not about whether something is true or not. It's about whether that true statement sounds like it's helping them or not. Sky News, The Australian, and even significant institutional right-wing and liberal figures like Alexander Downer, writing for The Australian, have lent shots in the arm to the Marchers for Australia by doing the reflexive right-wing thing that they're so practiced in doing over the past decade or more, where they say, you say everyone's a Nazi, but no, this is a, in Alexander's words, counter-revolution. The organiser of the Brisbane rallies, Bender, reckons he's going to dox me, as though I'm the person who's causing him problems, as opposed to the NSN, who, according to him, are sending him and his family threats about raping him into loving the NSN. Yemeni remains fixated on child-minding his shitty audience, telling them that the left's the problem and nobody understands how multi-ethnic these events are, despite the fact that he's now pictured here in the UK also getting kicked out of anti-immigration rallies by Nazis. But look, in their own words, they're not going dressed up in all black on October the 19th. Okay? The NSN won't be there as a uniformed presence. I mean, of course they'll be there. They'll just be there in their, casual attire. But what I am here to tell you is that the Anko Angel, as I like to call her, after everything she said, after all the explaining of her position that she's done, there's no discernible difference between her and the NSN. Apart from attire, there is no discernible difference between the space that she has created and the space that the NSN would have created. Speaking of spaces, here is a Twitter space in which her and her partner Jessie and a bunch of other hangers-on all talk about the aims and field some questions related to the March for Australia.
This country was founded, settled and built by Anglo-Saxons and Anglo-Celtic people. And that's the founding stock of this nation. That's who built it, and that's the reality of it. And people, they can call that racist all they like. But that is the reality of it. And so, for people like yourself, if you're here and you love this country, accepting that reality that's the founding stock of this nation, and that should be the ultimate majority, and we should have control over the nation that our ancestors built. That's what March for Australia stands for.
And there's a very telling conversation between an African Australian citizen and, sort of hanger-on of nationalists and a self-described national socialist called racial realist, obviously. They have a chat.
I keep coming to this hypothetical situation. Say if Rachel were to become an Australian Prime Minister, for example, would you kick me out the moment you get in?
Oh, absolutely. I would every non-white day. Absolutely. The only people who'd say would be Aboriginals, or maybe they belong to the country. So, of course,
that I better park my
everyone
bag.
else... Yeah, fucking oath, mate. If I became PM, you'd be on my next boat, straight out of the country, as would all your brethren.
You're so funny, mate. But I love this. I love this.
It's not funny, mate. I'm absolutely serious. You can treat it as a joke, Australia was built by white people for white people in a story.
I can see things are going to get freaking messy now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to change the subject a little bit.
So can you guys like let me be like Australian, like African Australian, keep me here, like don't make me like go back to Africa like Rachel would.
All right, that's enough about this. All your questions are based on your own self-preservation. You're asking questions because you care about your own status. Yeah.
Yeah, and guys, we got heaps of hands. Let's keep it moving.
Another moment that tells you everything you need to know about the delusional right-wing multi-ethnic panderers and adamant, honest neo-Nazis who make up this whole space that these rats have created to fester in. They have to stop it, because even if it's an example of the unmitigated truth being propagated around their circles, they're truth-telling for a moment, they know it doesn't feel helpful to them, so they stop it. Beck's concerned that they're not showing up as a coordinated presence in uniform on the day. She'd rather that they be there. It's immaterial to talk about the difference between her and them. They're still white supremacist-led and organised marches. I don't care about cunts in bucket hats and Helly Hansen jackets. It's the same fucking thing. We know that now. And as I've already made the case for repeatedly in the past, as you know is correct, we need to go out and confront them. Here you go. Here's events all over Australia happening to counter these events on October the 19th. Show up. For further updates, check the groups arranging these events, or check my socials. If I learn about more events or revisions, I'll post. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for your support. I'm an anti-fascist terrorist. I'm independent as fuck. Nobody ever tells me what to say, and I hope I see you on October the 19th and I can shake your hand.